I wanted him to stay. I thought he was the best man to lead the party and to lead Quebec, because in the times of uncertainty and instability, such as the one that we're going through right now, I thought he embodied stability. He embodied experience.
Not quite sure how you embody experience when you've been in government for 25 years. I thought you would have experience. That's Bernard Drinville. His reaction, of course, to Francois Legault having resigned yesterday. He was also asked, by the way, is he considering perhaps, running or taking over? And his answer was, as every other person who's been asked, I think, in the CAC has said, it's too soon and I haven't made a decision yet. James Mennie's on the line. So, Jim, first of all, am I wrong here? Are you talking about embodying experience? What's that about?
I don't know. Here is a guy who should know better, who's got a fair amount of experience as a provincial politician. Lest we forget, Monsieur Drinville was the pioneer for the whole Quebec charter of values. Okay, how he can say that while every single indicator suggests that Francois Legault was the most loathed premier in Quebec history suggests to me that maybe his finger is not on the pulsating pulse of the great Quebec public. But it's so funny. It's just part and parcel of this absolute surreality that I was able to listen to. I listened to the show yesterday. I was off sick yesterday, but I was able to listen to the show, Aaron. And I got to tell you, if there was anything that indicated what the legacy of Francois Legault and his entourage is going to be, it was you doing your best to be, it's just, he resigned today, there'll be plenty of time to criticize and this and that. But, in the meantime, and then you would start to talk about whatever it is, whatever part of the government it was that you were about to, and you discovered that every single thing this government ever did turned into an utter, unmitigated disaster. Yeah. And you're basically saying, this guy was a total jerk, And when you turned around and said, well, this may be the worst government, Quebec Anglo, no, I'm sorry, buddy. You swing for the fences. This is the worst government Quebecers have ever had. End of story. There isn't a single thing you can talk about, you can cite by this government that doesn't pass a test that would even exhibit a modicum of competence. And I'm telling you, as I've said on the show often, Aaron, first of all, there's no such thing as coincidence as far as I'm concerned. But the number one question is, why is this happening now? I was not surprised by the announcement. In fact, you and I had been talking for the past month and a half, saying it was going to happen during the break. It happened during the break. What triggered that particular day? Because this was out of nowhere. There wasn't a leak. If this had been in the cards, Aaron, this would have been leaked. You know it, and I know it, and most people in this line of work know it. But what I find fascinating is that here we are, one day after you and I are talking about how the provincial watchdog for the issuance of public contracts has basically run up one side of the SAAQ and down the other, saying that, the whole SACLIC fiasco was absolutely ridiculous. And we want you to keep, doing self audits and report to us for the next 6 months. Because, and a suggestion being, we think this kind of hanky-panky may still be going on. We don't know how deep this rot is. And I really think, Aaron, and I thought that was yesterday, that Francois Legault got tips saying, listen, if you think the report from the Autorité des Marchés Publics is bad, wait till the Legault Commission report comes out. And as if to confirm that today, I don't know if you saw the news, Geneviève Guilbeault and her staff, when she was the Minister of Transport, have received official notices from the Legault inquiry saying you will be named in this report and you will not be named in a flattering manner. Oh. So can you imagine the absolute breathtaking level of egregious incompetence? Never mind corruption and UPAC, Aaron. Just plain good old-fashioned stupid insouciance, which has been a hallmark of this government, whether it was North Pole, whether it was the immigration policy and temporary resident policy that they kept changing, and thousands of people who wanted to come to Quebec had their lives thrown all upside down because then immigration minister Simon Jolin Barrette made it clear he had no idea. He was completely in over his head as immigration minister. So look at all those things, and then look at the numbers that Legault was confronting. I don't think this was some, wizened statesman turning around and realizing that he had to leave for the good of the party. I think if this was a Bond film, Aaron, this was Blofeld getting in the escape pod before the explosive charges go off. You know what I mean? This was an escape. I think he knows that when he is no longer premier, at least he won't have to answer all those uncomfortable questions, because there is a chain of responsibility in the CAQ, which it also makes me laugh about, who's the next leader going to be? It doesn't matter. If you want Aaron, run for the leadership of the CAQ, okay? You got as much of a chance of being premier as anybody who's in there right now. That party is finished. And for the press corps in Quebec City to turn around and suggest, well, this is all perfectly normal. We'll go back. We'll hit the reset. No. That's not going to happen. Francois Legault polled 11% as the premier of Quebec. His party is dead last, okay? And by the way, as for the 70 plotted plants that also known as the CAQ caucus, expect to see them running scurrying for the side of the ship and jumping off before now in the next election, because no, there will not be any kind of renaissance, any kind of resurgence. And this idea, we'll get this very well-known right of center Quebec businessman. He'll change the whole ground. No. People hate the CAQ. People hate Legault. End of story. Doesn't matter how you polish this particularly battered and malodorous political concoction, which proved, as I say, to be one of the most disastrous political adventures Quebec has ever engaged in. They're done like dinner. And I got to tell you, it's going to be interesting to see how the opposition parties are going to play this, whether they are going to actually even bother to acknowledge the CAQ as being a factor, or whether they are going to focus all of their blood and treasure on going after their number one adversary, i.e. the Liberals after the PQ, and vice versa. I really think that's where we're headed, and honestly, anything now that suggests that there is any kind of legitimacy, any kind of seriousness taken about this tottering, tawdry, threadbare, and absolutely petty and spiteful government that should be taken seriously, I think nobody's buying it, Aaron. It's already done. It's over. And as I say, he says, I'll stay on till we find a new leader. I think they're going to try and find a new leader right quick, because when the revelations come out, when the headlines come out, who's going to want to lead a party that for some reason, I'll guarantee you, they'll still be able to go lower than 11% between now and Election Day with what's going to come out about the administration of the CAQ government.
I will. The one thing that has come up, Jim, and it's come up a few times when we try to find something good to say, is this idea, and another caller brought it up earlier on, at least, on the promise of we're not going to have a referendum, that's not going to be the election issue. That's the one thing we can give him credit for. He actually promised and made that promise and fulfilled that promise.
No, because he wanted to take Quebec out of Canada by keeping the transfer payment.
Yeah.
I'm very sorry. I've said it 1,000 times on this show. For the definition of a Quebec nationalist for Francois Legault is a separatist who's too cowardly to hold a referendum. So yeah, they kept their promise, Aaron, because they realized if they held a referendum, they would lose. So they figured, listen, we got a doormat named Justin Trudeau. Let's get all these concessions from Ottawa in terms of the Official Languages Act, in terms of recognizing Quebec as a nation, and the French is the official. Why should I bother with all the fuss, Aaron, of a referendum when I can have my own little nation, okay, and still have Canadian taxpayers underwrite the cost? Having
your cake and eating it too, huh?
Mm-hmm.
James Mennie at the Montreal Gazette. Thank you, Jim. Glad to hear you're feeling better.
Introducing Bryan Adams Radio on iHeartRadio. Hosted by Bryan Adams himself.
Join me for an insider look on a wild ride through 40 years of global rock and roll.
Bryan Adams Radio. Now available on the free iHeartRadio app. Or ask your smart speaker to play Bryan Adams Radio on iHeartRadio.
Who's ready to rock?
Everywhere I go, kids wanna rock.